Whew. Sorry to start the video off in such a disillusioned tone, but I really wanted to kind of let it out before I started to get on the subject I'm planning on talking about, which is the legacy of President Johnson, President Lyndon Johnson, LBJ, who I hold in high regard for most of his policies barring Vietnam, which I think really should be the only thing people have genuine opposition to. And really what I'm trying to convey here is that I think we see this renaissance in the popularity of Reagan, who, I think even as someone who considers himself liberal, is or was a good president. But I also consider Johnson a good president. I think it actually shows you that liberalism and conservatism have their day in the sun, their time where they can actually be productive. And I think it really depends on the candidate, not the ideology. He cut poverty in half. How many other presidents can say that? How many other senators, which is what he was at one point, can say that? How many other representatives can say that? Only him, I believe. And I just think it's incredible when you look at his legislation in support of civil rights, and then you'll still see people who try to defame him. You had Ben Carson last year denounce him while he was in Harlem, and I just couldn't understand it, because I don't see Johnson as someone who negatively impacted the African American community or negatively has impacted African Americans. In fact, it's because of him that I demand a higher amount of attention paid to African Americans by Democratic candidates. The only one doing so, or having done so over the course of this entire election cycle, even back when O'Malley and Chafee and Webb were still in, is Bernie Sanders. That's why, because of him, I don't agree with anything relating to Clinton. I don't believe that once she got elected, she would just start helping out African Americans. I don't believe that. And I really think when you see people who kind of go after him or try to defame him, they're most of the time expressing opposition because they believe he murdered President Kennedy, which I will never. It doesn't add up to me. I can't fathom it. That's what I'm conveying. I don't think he had anything to do with anyone's assassination. I think he was a decent human being whose heart was in the right place, who genuinely wanted to help the people in this country that were impoverished, that were suffering. And I can't have a view of him that is really anything below that. Now, obviously, his handling of Vietnam has been criticized, I mentioned before, but it's nothing to necessarily say this is a reason why he's bad or this is a reason why he's average. For me, and I guess, you could say my perspective is tainted because I'm African American, so of course I would fall into the demographic of people who would be in favor of his policies. But even then, I still think that if you have the audacity to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you'll come to that same conclusion that he was someone who was decent or someone who was alright. And I think that's a big turn on for most people who support him.